Dear participants, guests, dear attendees, welcome to the panel discussion, Development of Leaders in Education. The panel is a part of the conference Leader in Education, organized by several bodies cooperating with the research team from pedagogical faculty, Matej Bell University in Banská Bystrica, and investigating the APVV project on modeling competencies of educational leaders, creating and verifying a program designed to support competencies of educational leaders. It is a fact that leadership in education has become the priority issue in education policy all over the world. It means that it's valid also for our country as well. Our panel's agenda will address this issue mainly from the perspective of education or development of leadership in education, covering the aims specified as strengthening the awareness of the importance of leadership in education and its development in the Slovak context. Then presenting various perspectives and approaches to conceptualization and implementation of programs focused on either school leadership or school management and teachers or leaders in education in general. Then sharing authentic experience of the panel's participants with either specific studies or developing programs or their know-how in what's going on in other countries as well. And then we will finish with some proposals that can have a potential to inspire and improve quality of educational leaders' preparation. As the panel is carried out in an online platform, it enables attendees to ask the instructions you should see. And we will find some place to answer if there are some questions. It's really my pleasure to moderate and also participate in this panel with really special guests. My name is Eva Sollárová. I'm a professor at the Psychology Department, Pedagogical Faculty, Matej Bell University in Banská Bystrica. But what is more relevant for the panel, I am the principal investigator of the project on leadership in education I have already mentioned at the beginning. Now I would like to introduce our guests who accepted the invitation to take part in the panel. John Pelliteri, professor at Queen's College City University of New York and the president and co-founder of the International Society for Emotional Intelligence. Natalis Wamba, professor at the same college, Queen's College City University of New York, who is in charge of certification programs and the graduate program in educational leadership at this college. Vladimír Laššák, PhD, teacher trainer at the Pedagogical Center in Banská Bystrica, with rich experience in school management education and international projects related to it. For instance, Central 5, supported by the EU Commission. Selecký, PhD, assistant professor at the Constantin Philosopher University in Nitra, who together with his colleague, Professor Pisoňová, are in charge of an undergraduate study program in school management, also experienced in professional or vocational or lifelong education, as he works also for the Center of Continuous Education and Technical University in Zvolen, also involved in many international projects in education. Zuzana Labašová, MA, a program manager at the Comenius Institute, NGO. She's in charge of their program for educational leaders. And my colleague, Lada Kaliská, associate professor at Matej Bell University in Banská Bystrica, also a member of the research team we both will represent, and also a respected scientist known for her work and research in the areas of emotional intelligence, transformative leadership, and adaptation and standardization of psychological measuring tools. So now, when the attendees know who we are, it's time to start the work. I would propose to follow immediately one of the aims I have introduced. And one of those aims was to present various perspectives and approaches to conceptualization and implementation of educational or training programs focused on leadership in education. So now it would be good to share your roles in those specific programs and also to introduce a bit the context or framework of those programs you will present. I will not force to decide about who should speak. I will use it only once, so I would kindly ask our guest, Professor Wamba, to start with his program.
Thank you very much, Eva, for inviting us to this conference. So as you introduced me before, I am Natalis Wamba. I'm a professor of educational leadership at Queens College, City University of New York. I am in charge of the educational leadership program at the college. So we have actually two programs within the context of educational leadership. There is a program that we call educational leadership, and the other program is called instructional leadership. Those two programs are different. The educational leadership is designed to prepare current teachers that will be taking positions of leadership in school, in high-need school. It means the schools that are really in need of change. We do not prepare the students to manage. We prepare them to lead the school, because these schools are in dire needs. They have to be moved from point A to point B. So they have to lead the school. That's why we call the program educational leadership, not educational management. And then we have the instructional leadership program. The instructional leadership program is not for school director. It is for teachers in school that like to be in positions of leadership, because we found out over time that everybody that came to our program did not want to be a school leader or a director. Some of them wanted to simply be teacher, but be leader at the level of teacher, for example, head of department, coaches, mentor. So that program, the instructional leadership, is geared towards those teachers. So those are in terms of the difference between the educational leadership and instructional leadership. The other thing that is particular about our program is that we do not select anyone. You have to have at least 5 years of teaching experience and have a master's degree and be certified in the subject that you teach. So we really stream people that come to the program, because our program is geared towards the high-need school, the school that really need the help, not the school that are doing very well. And this is a matter of context, in which context we found ourselves. If these kids are doing very well in school, God bless them. But we want to gear our graduate towards the skill that needed the most because of the context of New York. This is the largest school district in the United States with 1.2 million students, 85,000 teachers, and a diversity that you never seen. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, you have it all. And people are in different categories socially. Some kids go to horrible school, some kids go to top school, so it's a matter of moving everybody to a certain level. There are more about the program, but I will stop there. I think I have exhausted my 4 minutes, so I'll let somebody else take it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now I don't know, Professor Pelliteri, would you like to add something?
Sure, thank you very much. Yeah, I have the privilege of working alongside of Dr. Wamba, who's had a tremendous amount of experience in this field. I am a professor in the counseling program. So we teach graduate students in mental health counseling and in school counseling. So leadership is built in to the school counseling track, because very often a school counselor in a school setting will be leading and directing and running school-wide programs that are geared towards the mental health and towards the academic success of students, of children. I also am the president of the International Society for Emotional Intelligence, as Dr. Sollárová introduced me before. And in the field of emotional intelligence, one of the main areas is management and leadership. Because as I'll talk about later on, and as I mentioned in the presentation that was posted earlier, emotions are a very important part of being a leader, of developing relationships, of just creating a culture of an organization. And schools are big organizations. So the climate of a school, the organization of a school setting is very important for student learning, for healthy interactions. So through the context of counseling and emotional intelligence, we have an important focus to influence the well-being of everyone in a school setting, as well as the academic achievement, which is a major purpose of every school. So that was my piece there. Thank you.
Thanks to both of you. And now the Slovak part, the Slovak scene, and I would propose Dr. Laššák to start with.
So, thank you for the place. Let me briefly introduce my institution. So, MPC, Methodological and Pedagogical Center, Teacher Training Center, we can say. We are a national institution under the Ministry of Education of Slovak Republic. That's our founder, and we are financed directly from the ministry. We are a national operation institution, and we operate in the whole area of Slovak Republic. We are running accredited programs of the Ministry of Education, and also these programs are accredited for school management programs. We have several programs. The first is basic module of school management, which is in 90 hours with 4 thematic units or 4 parts. It's a basic module for school principals or school directors and their deputies to be ready for public service in schools and providing position of the school management. So we train them in understanding external environment and trends in education, school legislation, which is quite complicated in Slovak Republic. We offer them basic managerial knowledge and experience, which are necessary for running school developmental strategy. And we also train them in financial management, in school economics. We also offer extensional modules, which are much more oriented for school principals. That's self-management and self-development and managerial ethics, then self-evaluation. We train our participants in project management to be able to develop internal developmental project to improve quality and student results. And we also run few programs which are oriented in school leadership, leading people in school and school facilities. We also offer many open optional programs like how to lead people and team effectively, etc. We are free of charge institution which is running according to law. So there is a duty in Slovakia for school directors, school principals, and their deputies to went under this program. So they have to duty to take part in this program to be ready for managing and leading in the school. We are also cooperating in few international projects concerning school leadership. So we've been part of one concept which is called Center 5, which define managerial and leadership competencies for head teachers in Central Europe. And it consists with countries like Austria, Hungary, Slovenia, Czech Republic, and Slovakia.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. There still will be more time to share this experience with these colleagues and team from other countries. So it's not finished yet. Okay, but let's continue in this introduction of this variety of programs that are offered in Slovakia. So now I would like to ask Dr. Selecký.
Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to New York.
Good morning.
So, according to the meeting context, we can present our university constantly philosophy in Nitra, Faculty of Education. Our faculty is the first faculty in the Slovakia which accredited a new bachelor and the master study program, Management of Education and Public Administration. Nowadays, there are 16 full-time and 44 part-time students in this study program because it's the first year study. Some words about our study programs. We have management development, including leadership, economical, legal management, personal management, project management, marketing, etc. And integral part of this program is formed by management and leadership practice and training program oriented to conflict resolution or communication and motivation strategies. Our study program is based on research of educational needs of school managers.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Thank you very much. And now, Zuzana Labašová, MA from the Comenius Institute, try to introduce especially the long 1 year program.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Well, our program is slightly probably different than all the presented or introduced programs because we are a non-profit organization that decided in cooperation or in partnership with University of Matěj Bell to create a space of inspiration for teacher leaders. And our program has been acknowledged as one of the most inspirational programs for teacher development by the Varkey Foundation. And we have been running this program for 5 years now. And it consists of several different parts, but I will focus on the one that is the most intense. And it's a 1 year program for teachers who want to develop themselves professionally as well as personally and individually. And in an informal setting, we create several day meetings for a closed group of 20 teachers, future teachers, or teacher school directors. It's a mixed group. And it's a purpose in that. The purpose of having a mixed group is that we want the learning to happen not only in a top-down process from an expert who is teaching them how to do things, but we want the growth and development to kind of go from one another, to inspire each other, to help each other grow. And when we talk about leadership in our context, we focus on professional as well as personal development, because we have been working with teachers for a very long time. And what we found out that they very often lack, even when they're like perfect teachers and experts in whatever they teach, what they lack is those special social and soft skills that are very necessary when dealing with students and colleagues and in the teacher setting. So we focus on topics such as conflict resolution and mediation, facilitation, We talk about critical thinking. We talk about professional power and how to internalize the power. What is our vision as teachers, and to strengthen the purpose and the values and the vision of the teachers who visit our program. And we also give them, or our expert lecture gives them, a workshop on modern didactics. And so then this is the year-long program where our commitment is to give them the professional and personal growth, and their commitment is to work on a pedagogical project, or a project where during the whole year they think of a topic that is lacking or is insufficient in their classrooms or in their schools, and they work to develop it, to make it better, to increase the effectivity of what's going on in the classrooms. And at the end of the year-long program, they need to present the results of their pedagogical project. After the one-year program, they become part of the alumni program. Currently, we have 135 members of our alumni program, and they become mentors and coaches of the new incoming participants of our program, and we continue to develop their skills, their professional and personal skills. And we also try to focus not only on those 20 exceptional teachers every year, but we also try to create opportunities of growth for the broad pedagogical community in Slovakia. And the other thing that is mostly or more aimed at the general public is the Teacher of Slovakia Award, where we pick inspirational teachers from Slovakia and try to present their work. And it's not really a competition, it's more an exhibition of great teacher practices in our schools in all the regions of Slovakia.
Well, I already feel your excitement to become also my excitement. And now when I realize that it's our turn to present what we have done and based on our research project. So I have a new title for our program, that it's a baby program. Because it's really very fresh, and we have just started to implement it and verify it. So briefly, what I'm speaking about, the research project is focused on developing a study program, but to have it theoretically and empirically based. And the theoretical base is derived from competence approach or competence theory. So the first part or output of the program was the creation of this model. We call it model of key competencies. It's not much time to spend on it. Those who are interested, it's a part of, it's one of the presentations that those interested can find within this conference. So this is the background or the framework, and what we tried to maybe add to this nice variety of how things are done in developing leadership is to make use psychological knowledge, because as Zuzka have just said, that there is really need for psychological know-how in developing leaders and teachers, and this part of psychological know-how we offer is this competency-based theory. And what else? Not just this, but as we found out, there are models, there exist models for either teacher competency models or teacher leadership or school managers leadership. And we tried to do a unified model. And this model it consists, it has 3 dimensions. Theoretically, it consists of 5 key competencies applied to educational context in 5 domains. 3 of them are very generic for leadership, and then 2 of them are specific for educational context. And empirical level of this model is specified in indicators, and all this framework helped us, was the main base in designing or developing the study program itself. And right now, this period, we have been implementing it and verifying it in 3 different populations. Not just, so at least something, Lada, we will add that was not mentioned yet. And it is that beside, of course, school management level and teachers, we also tried to verify its relevance and, of course, effects on the group of undergraduate students, mainly studying teacher training study programs. So maybe later we will share some personal experience and effects later. Now I realize that I already mentioned something I would call a framework in the context. And at the same time, something that I would call is specific about our attempt. Some of you already did the same, but maybe there's still left something you would like to add if I asked about what you consider really something special about the program you presented. Yes, Zuzka?
Just a few days ago, we talked to some of our alumni students, and when we asked, or like when we wanted them to sum up what was the main positive outcome of studying at Comenius Institute, something interesting came up, because it was not the workshops, it was some of the most important things for them was the networking with like-minded teachers, the ability to spend time with teachers who are very motivated, who are inspirational, who bring innovations. And so, as I talked at the beginning, the process is not only a top-down process, but having them for a 4-day workshop and they spending informal time and talking together and learning from each other seems to be one of the very important parts, and something that teachers actually really need to be empowered and to keep going and to keep growing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And from what I know about your program and reactions of your participants, I would add this never-ending contact that remains, that it's not that the program finished and that they are somehow out, but that they feel that they remain a part of this inspirational community. Okay, Professor Wamba?
Some of the uniqueness that we have in our program is, as I started to say before, the admission process, who is selected to be part of the program. And within the program, we also have an advisory board composed of alumni, people that have been in the program, that look at what we're doing and see how change can be made. All those people are school principals. Some of them are superintendents, the people above the principal, that constantly look at the program and keeps giving us feedback. So there is a feedback loop that always goes on. Change this class is no longer relevant. So we keep on modifying the framework of our program, but also the other things that I like to just mention, there are several frameworks of educational leadership in the United States. There are three that are really known, that have a great reputation that we have adopted to our program. The first one is called the Ontario Leadership Framework by Leetwood. I will not talk about that, otherwise it's too much time. And then there is the Learning Center Leadership Framework developed by University of Chicago. And the third one is the Essential Support Framework. Those are the frameworks that are there. But Hick and Stocker, that are two researchers, decided to fuse all of them in 5 basic criteria: a vision, professional capacity, andragogy, if you want to call it, creating supportive management in the program, facilitating high learning, and connect to outside folks, to the stakeholder outside. So these are some of the elements that we use in the program. And in addition to the advisory board, in terms of the pedagogy that we use, I also talked about andragogy. I'm talking about pedagogy in terms of what we use in the classroom. We have problem-based and project-based learning that are essential to the program. And the internship is very, very solid, at least 600 hours that they have to spend to be interns. And then at the end, there is the exam that they take with the state of New York to be certified. It's only when you are certified that then you can apply for the job as a school principal or assistant principal. So those are some of the particularities that we have in the program.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Who else would like to add something that is special? Okay, Dr. Selecký.
In my point of view, during the last 10 years, the pressure and demands on the economic and legal competencies of the top managers and school administrators, especially head teacher, have increased. According to actual Slovak law, the head teachers has 2 possibilities how to prepare for this position. Firstly, to study continuous education, or secondly, to study bachelor or master university program. The position of top school manager and administrator in Slovakia require implementing all management function, including leading of people. And according to opinion, Professor Pisonova, she's not here, but the process of school management in Slovakia can be considered mainly as a management process. And leadership is only one part. And on the other side, in OECD countries, education, preparation or development of head schools manager is mainly focused on leadership.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes, agree. Okay, who else would like to share what you consider as special feature you would like to share, you would like to stress? Okay, Dr. Laššák.
Let me briefly introduce a specific feature of main managerial program for school leaders and school directors in Slovakia. We run the program according to professional standards for head teachers and professional teachers, which had been defined by the ministry and give place for competency framework in 4 domains. The first one is normative, legal, process and financial domain. The second one is strategic domain. The third one is pedagogical, and last one is self-development domain. And this is key starting point for definition of managerial program in Slovakia. We respect 2 phases of management. One is typical managerial program, and the second one is leadership program, because we see a huge deficit of managerial competencies in Slovak manager. What is specialty for NPC is that we work with people with very little experience in management. Sometimes these are new teachers or people who has aspiration to apply for managerial position, formal managerial position in the school. So we have very heterogeneous cohorts of participants, about 20-25 participants, and we need to apply very specific form of education and training in many cases, with emphasis on knowledge base of management and leadership, with strong application and reflection of their practices. And there is a huge expectation of participants to solve some specific problems, specific situation which are typical for school environment and are very, very different from conventional management. We offer them many individual activities, and at the end of each module and at the end of this program, then they prepare assignment, which is usually the new developmental strategy of the school, and they pass final exam from all 4 topics in management as is given in the program.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you too. If what we are now sharing will have such an impact on others than it already has on me, it's great. And now I want to share immediately what impressed me, of course, because I will speak for myself, am concentrated on leadership, and I came to a conclusion that maybe it's too about management and not about leadership at all. So, of course, I am negatively biased to when there is too much management stress. And now when I listen to you, I realize and have to accept that it's really relevant for the specific context of how prepared school managers for managing their schools are. So it's a very important note for me, and thank you for it immediately. And now I realized one thing that we decided to do in creating within this research project, this unified core competencies model, is that we excluded exactly this managerial part of competencies to enable to also strengthen the awareness of leadership in comparison to management, and to involve teachers who, of course, don't feel and are not managers. So thank you for that note. Okay, something else inspirational for the discussion.
I'll just add 2 points.
Yes.
In the field of school counseling, they focus on 3 domains, and we teach this in our counseling program at Queens College. And this is to take a whole school approach and to consider the development of all the students at all the grade levels. And one domain is, of course, the academic development. Counselors want to support that for all students. Another domain is the career development. This is a specialty that counselors will bring their way of working, the idea of exploring and considering different careers beyond high school. And the third domain, which I think is also very unique and special, is the personal and social domain. So the non-academic areas of personality development, this would also include social skills, stress management, coping skills, the psychological well-being of students, separate but parallel to the academic development. And that's a specialty that counselors will bring with them. And that second point of stress management and coping is important not only to develop in the students, but I believe is important to develop in all the staff and all the teachers and all the administrators, Like Dr. Selecký had said, there's a lot of pressure in being a teacher and in being an administrator. So I believe the idea of stress management, which is closely related to emotional intelligence, is an important area to develop for everyone in the school environment.
Yes, great. Now I don't know, Professor Wamba, whether your hand up is.
Yeah, I have my hand up. I just wanted to check two things. We have been talking about leadership and management. Those are the two notions that seems to come to the fore. What is leadership and what is management? So I talked about that in my presentation that I did on the web. And there are certainly elements of leadership that go into management and elements of management that go into leadership, but still we have to define what we call leadership. In the United States, there has been an evolution. Early on, people talked about school administration, and then it moved to school management in the 80s, and in the 90s and 2000, we began to talk about school leadership. So it is an evolution that have happened overnight. And we emphasize leadership because of the situation in which we found ourselves. It's a very, very unequal society. There are too many issues, social issues that have to be addressed. So we are needing people that can move, can change schools, not people that simply run school for the sake of running them. We want school to change, to provide equity. Equity is the key, and that's very, very important. That's what I wanted to emphasize.
Yes, thank you very much for this note. What you have just mentioned is highly relevant for where Slovakia is or what Slovakia needs. And it's really not only the word, it's not only language, but we are a bit, I guess that it's too high respect to label things as leadership. I know that, for instance, students in your program in the Comenius University don't feel well about being labeled as leaders. So a part of what you are sharing now is something that we would like to increase the awareness of the meaning of why leadership is so relevant for this state of transformational needs of schools, highly valid in Slovakia as well. Okay, somebody else, something else? Okay, Dr. Laššák.
I think that's very important to say that there are two faces on one unit. On the one side, management and leadership, we can see it as yin-yang model. And in each person, we can see managerial competencies, which are important for running school correctly from the point of view of operation. And on the other side, we can see leadership competencies, which are much more oriented to vision, to ability to inspire people, to working with emotions, solving conflict, and involving people into problems, to solving them, to development activities of the school. And what's very important in generally say managerial training, to have a balance between these two elements. The question is, if I am working with newcomers in managerial position in the school, so if teacher is new coming in the position of school principal, the key point is to be able to manage the school correctly. After 2 or 3 years, he sees situation differently, he's relatively stabilized, and after that, the leadership development can start. What we can do, and what's my recommendation, is to start to work with teachers in pedagogical leadership, to involve teachers into smaller projects for improving the quality and students' results in, e.g., small teams, in methodological bodies which are working in schools. when teachers can obtain first managerial and also leadership skills and abilities to lead people correctly and to get first results. And I think this is key element for being ready for higher managerial position, in which we expect a man which is able to manage the school correctly and also to lead the school correctly. What we are seeing in reality is that people are not very ready for the position of school principals with 60 teachers as a pedagogical staff, maybe 20 people as supportive staff, and with 500 students, that these people are not ready for managerial position, and also they're not ready for leadership position. So for that many schools in Slovakia are not developed as we expect, as our expectation of people and our ministry. So I see that there are some consequences, some procedures, some steps we need to respect when we develop people for public positions in schools. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you too. What you are sharing is relevant also for something I would call your experience or your view on those study programs you are experts in. And this is what I would like to open now for a moment. So what else would you like to share? What is your view on, especially on that program you are in charge of, or what are its or their effects, or what are some feedbacks from anybody, from participants to some external bodies. So anything that would represent your, let's say, evaluational view on what you have contact with. I hope I was clear. If somebody answers, it would mean that I was clear enough. Okay, Dr. Laššák and Professor Kaliská.
I don't know if Dr. Laššák wants to talk or he wants to just lower the hand. Oh, it's okay. Okay. All the time I'm thinking when to interrupt into this discussion, because I have several ideas in my head. One of them is that before this panel discussion, we had a panel discussion with professionals working at schools, and especially with school psychologists. And they were talking exactly about all these issues, like how hard and how difficult is it to run the school and also to be a leader and to help to coordinate the whole system. Yes, I would use this word. I think that's the most relevant. So how difficult is it? And of course, they were trying to speculate and discuss about the school psychologists and counselors at schools, how they could help teachers, managers, directors, parents, children, and the whole staff, how they could help. And that's why I think that one of the concluding ideas from the first panel discussion was that, and also in current situations, our teachers claim that they really feel overloaded with everything that has been done, and also because of the current situation. And really, they have found out and proved via several researches done that really, if they are able to have these personal domain qualities, yes, as John was talking about the third domain, that if the personal qualities are being well developed, then those teachers and also those managers, they are able to overcome, to handle this situation even better. And I could support my ideas also with, you were mentioning, Eve, that if we have some relevant data or if we are able to prove the effects of some programs. So if Professor Sollárová said that we are just now trying to verify the effects of our running program, new program, via the students, future teachers and teachers in practice, and also we are working with managers and so on. we have proved several times that really there is a great increase of all these, I would call them soft skills, via the program that is being run by Comenius Institute. And especially that the whole program as it's being built supports and emphasize and increases such qualities and ability to regulate the emotions, especially the negative emotions, ability to cope with difficult situations within the school, but also above the school level, yes, at the, I don't know, community level. For example, the program has proved that their self-confidence has been built up quite nicely. And I would just like to conclude that, as Susan said, that they talk about the network that they really value, that stays also after the program. And we have proved that their team cooperating skills have been strengthened a lot via these programs. So I think that this is really, I am not saying the most important domain that we should work on, especially in Slovakia, but it's really one of the three, yes, that we really should pay attention to. Thank you.
Okay, Zuzka?
I would just like to add to what Lada just said, because with Professor Sollárová and Lada Kaliská, we worked together on evaluating our program, Comenius Institute, the year-long program. And I kind of have the need to say that I believe every teacher is to some degree a leader, because they lead a group of young people. They need to be the role models. They need to inspire. They need to give them the knowledge. So I believe that the leadership skills should be given to every single future teacher that is going to enter the school system. And of course, the directors and their deputies need it as well. But I would say that the leadership skills and the social skills and the building of resilience is not only something that is fit for the directors or for the leaders of a school community, but for every single teacher that enters a school. If we want a better education for the next generation, we need our teachers to be leaders. And to have a purpose and vision.
Yes. Professor Pelliteri, thank you. John?
Yes, building on what Dr. Kaliská and Labašová have said, several people have referred to this, an important part of leadership is relationships. Developing relationships between the teacher and the students, between the directors and the managers and principals and their staff. Human relationships are critical, and that's where emotional intelligence skills come in, when someone can be able to develop good rapport with whoever they're working with and have empathy and understand the experiences of what the students might be struggling with, or the stress that a teacher or principal might be going through. When we could understand and support each other in that social and emotional level, that builds a more inclusive, emotionally sensitive environment. And that's a key factor for anyone, whether it's a formal leadership role as a principal or a less formal leadership, maybe as a teacher in a classroom. In any of these positions, we need to be mindful of the emotional and social dynamics of all the people involved. And I believe that's a key part of applying emotional intelligence in leadership.
Thank you. Professor Wamba?
John, thank you about talking about emotional leadership. We, in fact, have a course entitled Human Relations in our program that address emotional intelligence. And I have invited John a couple of times to come talk to my class. And it's also part of the professional standards here in the state of New York for the educational leader, that emotional intelligence is a key component of what we do in class. But in terms of talking about the result, as Dr. Sollárová presented it, in my program, what we look at in terms of our effectiveness, I don't want to talk about success. What does success means, I don't know. But we talk about job placement. How many graduates from our program have been placed in position of AP, assistant principal, or principal. We have all those statistics that are compiled by the Board of Ed in New York City, and can simply ask the Board of Ed to show you where your graduates are, and they will tell you exactly what they did. And most important, we try to see in what type of schools they're being placed. And we look at the trajectory. At least we start by at least 3 years to see what change they have brought to the school. How did the school has improved, not only to the level of score, the test, but how does the climate, talking about emotional intelligence, the environment, the teacher morale, what type of impact it has had on that. That is some of the things that shows that we have been effective in terms of training. And also, I have to mention the certification exam. It is a very, very complicated exam. It's very, very difficult. It's not easy to pass. Everybody knows that. But in our program, 95% of our students pass. So I just interpreted saying the 5% are the people that did not take the test. But 95% pass the exam, which is very, very complicated. And the other thing that we did, we don't advertise our program. There are no panels to say this is the educational leadership at Queen's College. We don't do that. All the referrals come by former students. And I'm the one who admits students. In fact, I have a pile of application on my desk here that I'm reading. They refer by students. That says something about the program. Okay, we don't nail people. They're being referred by other students. And we have been there for a long time. So those are some of the things that we use to see that our program is quite effective, and it's according to everything that you wanted to see happen. So that's the way we try to look at how effective we are in terms of working with educational. We in fact had one time the program funded by the Wallace Foundation, which is one of the major organizations in the United States looking at the development of school leaders. We had a project with them that trained our students as leaders. So that was another acknowledgement that we had from the institutions that are there. Thank you.
Thank you too. I feel the excitement of the psychological part of the panel when we speak about relationships and emotional intelligence and conflict resolution. So this is all our area predominantly. And I realized that these all are topics that are somehow disrespected in the area, also academical area, but also in the trainings or education. And I realized that real experts and really people who know what they speak about have the chance to correct this disrespect. So, and this is our experience and my personal experience. I also incline to the topic that also is somehow sometimes disrespected, and it is Rogerian person-centered approach to build relationships. And my experience with this freshly verified program is great. And I can see the surprise of teachers or managers, how useful that it can be a real useful tool, this kind of knowledge applicable to their real needs related to problems and conflicts and relationships. So it's our responsibility to show that it really that we really have what to offer. Natalis, I don't know whether you want to. Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to mention one other thing. One of the issues that is concerning us now in the educational leadership program is the fact of how do we educate educational leaders. Most of the time it is an isolation. When you go into a school, you have the school principal, you have the teachers, you have the school counselor, you have the school psychologist, you have the social worker. All of them are part of the schools. And yet, when you train educational leaders or managers, they are by themselves. They don't know who are they going to meet in the school. That's why we have our department that is called Educational Community Programs. In our department, we have the educational leadership, we have school counseling, we have school psychology, and special education. The idea is to educate all those people together so that when they end up in the school settings, they know each other. For example, we did a little study to see what did the school principal knew about the school psychologist. No idea. It's as if they don't know what they do. I ask a principal, what does the school psychologist do? He say, oh, they do testing. I say, only testing? What else? What did the social worker do? So they don't know each other. And then they trust to work together in a school situation. It creates more problem. How do we change our programs so that the education they are receiving is integral, so that they know each other? So I was in school, I know what the school psychologist does. I know what the social worker does. I know what the school therapist does. So like this, they come together, and when they go to school, they know each other, and they can work together, and it's more effective than just being in isolation. So that's the point I wanted to make.
I realized that it's not valid only for the states, but it's valid also for our country, but I don't want to speak about it. It reminded me, Dr. Laššák, what you were speaking yesterday about when we talked about this issue, and it's how are our teachers and school managers prepared to work in teams. Would you share something that you were talking about yesterday to me?
Okay, then that's a tricky question because the situation is different in each school and the teams are different in each school. But we ask our teachers across Slovakia in conference teacher of 21st century. It was 2 years ago, about relationships and cooperation and quality of the cooperation in schools in Slovakia. And the results of focused discussion was that there is very weak support from school managers and school leaders for cooperation of teachers into school. So there are only few initiatives to get together and to solve some specific problem. We know about it and school is facing this situation. The second one is that we found that there is no time in Slovakian schools to cooperate because Slovakian teachers are too busy to work in classes and there is no special place and special times to come together and cooperate and solve some specific pedagogical problems under leadership of pedagogical leader. This position in Slovakian school is very formal as a head of methodological body. We can translate it in English from the Slovak terms. And when we look at the yearly programs of the methodological bodies, which should be supporting institutes in schools, which prepare teachers and run some professional development of the teacher for specific area of education or for specific subjects. That's very formal in Slovakia, and I think that's not very good. And for that, we need to prepare pedagogical leaders, which are very talented teachers with vision of change, with a lot of energy, inspiration, and give them space to cooperate with colleagues and to improve pedagogical process in schools. The third observation and opinion of participants was that teachers in Slovakia have a very limited skills to cooperate as team members. And that's very funny because we expect from the teachers that they will lead and teach students and children to cooperate and to be team workers. And only few % of Slovakian teachers went under managerial and teamwork training. So that's a question if they have appropriate knowledge, appropriate experience, and if they know how to cooperate in teams effectively and how to develop teachers in this very specific competence, which is long life competence for children. I see a very interesting paradox here, and this paradox is what Zuzana said, that every teacher is a leader in class. But we can ask if he should be a leader in position of methodological body as a pedagogical leader in educational area for some specific subjects. And we can ask if he is able to offer high quality as a leader in the level of whole school. And my experience are that a lot of teachers are very aware to be a pedagogical leader and to lead their colleagues to improve something in the school, like literacy or I don't know, science grammar or math grammar, etc. Because when we ask teachers in NPC, in project management program, to write a project which improves something in the school, they reflect that they have a problem to cooperate with their own colleagues, which are very close and communicate on day-to-day basis. So maybe here is the reason why the cooperation in Slovakian schools is not so good and not so high quality as we expect.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Zuzana would like to react.
Well, the results of the evaluation of our program show that at the end, the teachers who go through the year-long program are able to create cooperations with others, are more able to communicate with others, their needs and their expertise. So I believe those are all social skills, and I believe we need to practice them as people. And the academic world does not really focus on those things. So I believe those skills should be ideally taught when preparing future teachers. So they already enter the difficult context of students and school contexts with enough skills to be able to cope with the difficult situations, because difficult situations emerge in classrooms all the time. So the teachers entering the school systems, I think, are desperately unprepared for those situations. So this is something I think that should be part of the preparation of future teachers. And then concerning the leadership or expertise in a certain professional area, I'm sure in the ideal world, every teacher could be a leader or inspire his or her colleagues in something he or she is passionate about, or he or she wants to develop more or develops more in his or her free time. But this is the ideal world, and I think we're very, very far from that yet.
Mm-hmm. I would like to add something when I'm listening to you. This is a question of whether it is not too late to start to work with head teachers, headmasters, directors when they already are at the position. And this is the typical situation in our country. And now, Zuzka, you have mentioned students, future teachers, but not only future teachers. This is what we tried and have a very fresh experience. And one dilemma we had, how to adopt the proposed program to be relevant for students who, of course, are not leaders yet. And it is possible because, and this is partly thanks to the concept of core competencies, because this concept, but I don't mean it only in the abstract way, enables to work with the competency that can be then applied to any position. So that's why those competencies related to themselves and to the others we used in these parts for students, and we were happy with reactions and effects also. So maybe this is one of first attempts that we would like to systematically implement leadership development or support of potential future leaders. Okay, Dr. Laššák.
Maybe one very short note about the time of the training and time of the education. That's very important according my experience here in MPC and maybe in MBA programs which I've been running in the past time for Nottingham University, etc. I personally think that if somebody is under training program in duration of 1 or 2 years, we can guarantee some results in evaluation, and we can guarantee some development of this man in managerial and in a leadership area. When we run very short programs in duration on 20, 30, 40, 50 hours, the effect is very, very low. And the quality maybe is very high, but impact we cannot see in the practice. So my recommendation is to run 1 year, 2 years programs with some trainings and many activities which enable to development of the people. And there is a chance to obtain some knowledge, some skills, and therefore some attitudes and the change mental model of these people in their mind. That's very important for forming the leaders, because there are some people, according to my experience, that never will be high quality leaders because there are some personality issues which are important to be school leader, which is able to transform the school. And that's very important to enable everybody to went under this training and to support those people who have the highest chance to transform the schools. That's very important, I think. We need to select people for higher managerial position to be high quality managers and very inspiring, accepted, authentic leader, which another are able to follow. That's very important, I think. Because if we have somebody who is 100% manager and zero leader, that's quite complicated for the school because there are no ideas, no invention, no emotion to change something. On the other side, when we have somebody who is zero manager and 100% leader, that's absolutely chaos. They can't start school year because from the point of view of organization of the school and typical role of teacher, nothing is said, nothing is done, nothing is planned. So we need to find out some balance and train these people in these two areas for the highest position. Question is, what do we need to do with students at university, which according to me should be prepared for managerial and a leadership position also. That's very important to set the academic education that the students will have enough opportunities to form their leadership competencies through projects, through different forms of cooperation, to test their leaders' competencies and their leadership abilities. Thank you.
Thank you to John, Professor Pelliteri, and then Professor Wamba.
No, thank you, Dr. Laššák. It's an important point that you're making, that who would be the best person in those roles, and who has the potential to develop those skills in a high confident way. A few points I have. One, in terms of learning, we could apply what we teach the students in the schools, apply those learning processes, obviously, to teaching the teachers and the potential leaders. And an important dynamic in the learning process is to have experiences, and it cannot be just a disconnected set of theories or ideas. People need to experience through internships, through projects, through collaboration in the classroom. They need to have experiences. And then an important piece of that learning process is to be able to reflect on the experience. How did it feel to collaborate with a classmate? How did it feel to work at that internship? How does it feel to fail, to make mistakes? That's an important part of learning. We should not be afraid to make mistakes, because we learn sometimes more. I know me personally, I've learned more from my mistakes than I have from my own successes. So it's to be able to engage and reflect upon our learning processes and our experiences that enable us to then form new concepts and new mindsets and skill sets of how to be more effective as a leader. So that's an important piece. Another thing is just one of these studies I referenced in my presentation that we did online, 2 areas for leaders. One that researchers looked at is getting along and getting ahead. 2 big areas. So the getting along is the relationship. Good leaders can create relationships, like we've mentioned before. But then the idea of inspiring and motivating people to move towards a goal and accomplish a goal. And one of the studies found that the relationship abilities and the relationship behaviors facilitated the goal-oriented accomplishments. But we need to work on both. So sometimes we'll focus on pushing the students and challenging them to reach a difficult or challenging goal. Then at other times you have to pull back and shift into building a relationship and helping others to feel more grounded or supported. So a good leader can shift between different skill sets, building relationships or motivating others. Thank you.
Yes, thank you too. Just a brief note, I totally agree that when psychologists want to stress or work on relationships, it's not because of relationships themselves, but because the goal remains and it's some results or some goals. Yes, agree. Professor Wamba?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of throw out a couple of points. As we're talking about leadership, one of the things that I always tell my students is that when you graduate from medical school, you are a medical doctor. If you graduate from the accounting department, you are an accountant. If you graduate from an educational leadership program, you are not a leader. It means leadership is something that you have to prove. So could you teach that in school? That's a question that I'd like to raise there. Could you teach leadership? Is it static? It is contextual. Are you sure? But leadership is something that has to be proven. And one good way to prepare people is to look at their knowledge, what the skills that they have, and what kind of disposition that they bring to the fore. And also, let's not forget, there is a whole leadership industry complex today. I'll talk about that in my presentation. When you have programs that are there to make money, to train people to become leaders. So people are seduced, they're getting all this kind of leadership program, and really at the end, nothing happened because you can cut that whichever way you want. You are always few leaders in the end, few people that lead, because you may have trained so-called for leadership, but actually you are not trained for leadership, and there are more to leadership than just taking a class. And that's where all the other skills enter into picture. Your human skills, your emotional intelligence, as we have talked about. So those are the kind of things that we have to take into account. And I like to challenge that notion of teaching people leadership. Could you teach people to become a leader? What evidence do you have that you can do that? You cannot talk about leadership in place of management. You cannot talk about management in place of leadership. How do you prepare people to become leader? That's a question that I like to put out there.
Okay. So it seems that it really is inspiring, not just, okay, Dr. Selecký, would you like to enter?
Yes, thank you. I would like to say something about training program and quality. As my colleague, Mr. Laššák from MPC says, about quality at the university, we can also measure study program quality through students' interest in our university. In Nitra, we are very happy to say that there is a big interest in our study program for employees in education who are current manager or potential managers too. And for us, about feedback, for us is also very important. It's normal, very important feedback from students, and the students very positively evaluate training program in personal skills, in communication skills, and also the opportunity to participate in exchanging best practices. So the feedback is very positive, and they realize the management subject are very important in the management of their institution. Thank you.
Thank you too. Okay, Dr. Laššák.
Just a note concerning evaluation from the point of view of feedback, and maybe what we call in English follow-up, because we ask our participants on feedback on our training programs in school management, leadership, whatever what we do, maybe 500 programs for schools. But the results are quite well. When we ask them after 1 or 2 years, we sometimes get absolutely different results. And there's a test of the reality and test of the time. What was really important, what we offer as the highest value for the participant, what they can apply in their practice, that's very important. My experience with managerial and leadership program is that it's absolutely necessary to provide follow-up after 1 year or maybe 1.5, 2 years, and ask the people about their experience, how they are able to apply their knowledge or skills on whatever what we offer in training programs in their practice, and how successful they are at present time. And this is very good for comparison, what they say at the end of the program and what they say now. And that's a difference, because we did a measure in Slovakia. It was called To dá rozum. It makes sense in English. It was huge research, independent research across Slovakia about educational system. And when they ask school director about quality of each managerial program, many of them said that the quality was very low because they were on the position, e.g., for 10 years, and they were participants in the programs for beginner. And that was a program, this training program was too weak for them. So what my suggestion is that we need to differentiate the level of preparation and experience of these people and offer them different programs for newcomers in the managerial and the leaders position, and different programs for people which have a lot of experience. And that's something what MBA programs in commercial businesses of course do, because they expect 5-year experience for everybody to enter for MBA programs, to have something behind me, some kind of experience, some kind of improvements, some kind of fails in managerial practice. And after that, these people are ready to reflect their own experience and to apply something immediately after the lessons in this program. And there are also MBA programs for executives, which are top managers in companies, which have a lot of experience, and they are able to share their experience from bottom line to top line in managing organization. And that's very important, that they can see situation much more broader and much more deeper. And that's very important for people which should lead organization. So also question is about what level of leadership we are talking about. Because we see education, as we discussed yesterday, we see educational leadership on public level. These are people in Slovakia which discuss a lot as a politician and wants to change educational system. They are opinion leader, but there are influencers. These are professors at universities. We are also influencers because we form new generation of people which will lead at present time our schools. But we have executive leaders, which are school directors or principals. We have pedagogical leaders from which we expect to provide changes into school. And there are leaders on 5th level, and these are teachers as leaders in classes and role pattern, etc., as we discussed. Thank you.
Thank you too. If you just were right that we academicians have this kind of impact and influence, we would try. This is a support for me or for us, but I am a bit suspicious, but we will try. What Dr. Laššák has just mentioned was a kind of self-reflection and showing that you are totally aware of where there are things to improve or change or what to do differently. And maybe it's time to come to this point and to somehow create a set of, I would call, proposals. So what should be done differently, or what is that you would propose that this is that in the development of educational leaders should be involved either in design or in the content or anything. So what are some of your ideas you would either like to repeat or add to what we have already said? I would propose that this designing a program that is really directed to to methods or design itself, that it is a know-how that is totally applicable to lives and problems of the participants is something that should be not an exceptional but a standard. Okay, so something else you have in your mind? What would be your proposal that this is something I would highly recommend that should be either in the system of how we work with educational leaders, school managers, teachers, anything? Okay, okay, John, Professor Pelliteri, Professor Wamba, Dr. Laššák.
Just briefly in summary, I would re-emphasize the importance of relationships, because that's a key foundation for all our work in many contexts. And I would also emphasize what has been said by several of you, the idea of self-reflection and self-awareness. If we are going to lead others, we ourselves have to lead ourselves. We have to be leaders to ourselves as well as leaders to others. So to the degree we develop ourselves and our own self-awareness enables us to better work with other people. So those would be the 2 points I would want to emphasize.
Yes, thank you. Professor Wamba.
I just wanted to make this point that when we're talking about leadership and management in the United States is very, very different from leadership and management in Slovakia. Those are 2 different contexts. But what we have together, United States and Slovakia, is that we are operating under the neoliberal era, where people are being used to serve the political economy that is there. So what we want to do may not necessarily happen. For example, in this context, in the neoliberal context, the leaders are understood primarily as implementers of policy reform. Politicians are leading school reform and not educators. And the danger for that is that the school leader becomes the pawn, the server of the political folks that want the agenda to be accomplished. So that context of the neoliberal has to be analyzed carefully so that it does not enter into the way we form students, because we want people that are able to reflect themselves. We want people that are able to bring a critique to the socio-political economic situation in which we are. So they have to be free to design programs that allow critical thinking, and not only critical thinking for the sake of critical thinking, but critical thinking that addresses the conditions in which people are living and how to improve them. So the neoliberal context framework cannot be ignored as we're preparing curriculum and designing pedagogy and interacting with the students. That's what I wanted to emphasize. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you too. Dr. Laššák.
So what I think is important recommend from my point of view is that it's very important start with students at the universities to form them as a students leader and enable them to test their leadership competencies through educational process, through project, whatever. The second point is to provide and to design long-term programs, 1 year, 2 years, with follow-up to know how is the applicability of the knowledge and experience in school practice. The third one is a recommendation to train people in school, not in training institution, to go in school between teacher and train them to reflect specific school context, specific school culture. In this, there are huge differences between schools. All programs should be oriented on application because, as Natalis said, leadership is very practical issue. It's something you can see, you need to prove, and you will see if you'll be successful or not. And the last one is we need to learn from the best, e.g. from Leadership Academy, which is in Austria, when train 20 generation of teachers and school administrators in cohorts, which are 200 people in one room, and then train people to solve practical problems using the Balint groups, and they learn to solve very specific problems which they face in their region or in their schools. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, Zuzka?
Well, I would agree with Mr. Laššák about the fact that the leadership training should start in universities with students, but we also cannot give up on the tens of thousands of teachers who are in practice right now, and we need to support them and help them. And what I find as very important in leadership trainings is we need to teach those future leaders to work consciously with the formal power they have, because every teacher in his classroom, every director in their school has a formal power that he or she may or may not be aware of, or he or she uses adequately or misuses it. So this is one part. And the other part is to align the formal power with personal power and personal integrity, so that just like Mr. Laššák said, the formal power has to be aligned with the authenticity of a leader, and the authenticity comes from within, and this is something we need to work on continually. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you too. Okay, Dr. Laššák once again.
Oh. Sorry, I just
reach
off my hand.
Okay, yes. Anybody else?
Me?
Okay, Dr. Selecký.
Let me say that Professor Pisonova recommend for schools manager the training, how to improve their management competence, to make practical task, case study according to practice their skills and knowledge, and to implement professional management training with exchange best practice and implementation of theoretical knowledge in a practical situation. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you too. Okay, so is this my turn to, well, first I wanted to summarize, but I now don't have the need, because I think that these last 2 minutes were a nice summarizations of proposals. And for me, it sounds that it's so much great work that is being done, not just in the States, but also in Slovakia, which is good news. And have you noticed that there was no critique, that it was inspirational exchange of this great experience and work that is being done? And what I liked is that you or we are aware of what we would like to do differently, how to improve those programs that or our understanding of how to work with leaders in education, or who is it, or when to start. So So this is good, because nobody has it as something rigid or fixed or done, but I felt that everybody is open to, okay, what else, how else, how to do it better or more effectively. So I just would like to propose that meetings like this could be not just inspirational, but could have this impact to higher levels of those levels that have this legislative power to move things. Many of those ideas you shared, you yourself are able to get to life, but there are some levels that we need the power we don't have. But to summarize this from the point of view of us as researchers, I feel supported very much that the idea to look at the conceptualization of the development of leaders via competence-based approach is the right thing, or to involve everybody also, or involving also students. And I have heard it repeatedly that you would you feel it relevant and you would support it. I realized that that this is a massive amount of experience that you shared, and it's available, that it would be a pity if this disappears somewhere. So now I will be more okay with realizing that this will be on YouTube several months. So I hope that this also will have some impact, not just those icons, smileys. If this panel helped to, and will help, to increase the awareness of the topic of leadership in education as highly important, if we helped to make clear how much is done and what are potential possibilities how to do it better, so we did our part of the work. And of course, me and Lada feel responsible for really using the most of this this kind of information and experience you were willing to share and offer, that we will really try and do our best to move things as much as we are able to. So at the end, I would really like to thank you all for your willingness to take part in this panel, and I liked also the atmosphere, and mainly what you shared from your knowledge, from your personal messages, and from your emotional involvement. It was, for me, it was great. Of course, we will be evaluated externally, so we will see. But to become self-aware is also important. So that's it. Thank you very much. That's it, and I hope that those people who met, that this is not our last meeting. So I'm very eager to continue in exchanging our experience and offers and proposals further on. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye.
Take care.